Written by D.L. Houston, audio by Houston Productions. Cimmeria, Land of Deep Dark Night. Chapter 1, Lookout. The Eagle-Fian Mountains rose above the land, like circling giants of blue-mantled steel to the north of Cimmeria, gleaming with ice and snow as the pinnacles pierced through the dark, rain-laden sky. The meandering bright wisps of everlasting clouds gently rolled above the four encamped lookouts, perched high upon a sheer hilltop plateau called McArt's Fort, 50 feet above the canopy of the forest below. From their vantage point they could see far and wide, from east to west across their lands. The gentle winds and light rain pattered down on the resting men as they made themselves at home in the undergrowth, as they have done many times before. Blion the elder lay resting in his fur cloak, looking upwards, watching the white shifting forming shapes high above him as they swayed their eternal dance. He was too deep in his own thoughts to sleep for now, but he knew it would come for him soon. Once the blast of cold had lifted, he saw. Fergus and young Torn had already nodded off beside him in the grassy knoll, oblivious to the world around him. Cuchulainn, the fourth member of the watch party, scanned the land from his ledge around Cromlech, his settlement, a small village situated a few miles away to the south. The rest of the band of Cromraids slept behind him in the foliage, wrapped tight in their furs, shielding from the damp, gentle rains. He watched as the moonlight rays slithered and crawled along the gloomy valley floor far below him, illuminating patches of tilled and open grassland spattered in snow. The skies were calm now, Cuchulainn mused, but he knew when the Cimmerian god Crom awakened upon his mountain peak, he would bellow out thunder and lightning to enrage the sky gods above. The Cimmerian tribes were unified under one god Crom. Though they feuded with each other daily over scarce resources in the bleak cold environment, they are taught from a young age to worship their god Crom from the elders, passed down through generations gone. They believe he sits upon the highest mountain peak, in judgment of their daily toil with his land, breathing life into their new fondlings from birth. His breath is his only gift. As Cuchulainn looked out from his plateau, watching for signs of encroachment into his lands from the Vanir further north, their sworn enemy, he observes the falling dusk dance across the open plains towards his home. A steady stream of torches began to flame into procession some distance away below in the valley, forming a winding snake of luminous light on the white pastures. The fur tents can be clearly seen dotted around a patchwork quilt that is the expanse of his homeland. Surrounding the homes are large stockades of timber circling the area of Cromlech. He knew that the tribe was heading towards the clan mead hall, the large central tent for monthly gathering to discuss the harsh winter to come. The hound, as he is known by his friends, sat with one leg dangling nonchalantly over the ledge. The other leg was used to rest his axe on, while he sharpened the steel head. He was a middle-aged warrior, roughly 34 summers, aptly built, wearing a leather jerkin tied at the neck loosely, with a fur cloak upon his back. He peered now and again down to the forest canopy for signs of life, looking for any irregular movement of bushes or glints of steel. He was enjoying the cold wisps of mountain air in his lungs, inhaling deep breaths of cold, holding it, savouring his life, then exhaling out slowly. "Ah, this is the life," he whispered aloud, then went back to slowly sharpening his axe head. Blion from his fur bed broke the silence of the night. "You're going to thin that blade too much, Jew. No doubt dreaming of using it on some Vanir dogs, eh?" He let out a chuckle, then persisted in finding some comfort in the cold damp foliage under him, wrapping his fur cloak tight for some heat for his old bones. He knew the hound would never sleep while on lookout duty, so took advantage of this fact to get much needed shut-eye. Cuchulainn ignored him and continued inspecting the head of his axe, tilting it to the moon and watching the sparkles dance on the edge of the blade. Time passed, and the night wore on. His tribesmen rested, Brian snoring like a pregnant hawk behind him. Cuchulainn was lost in his thoughts, grinding the axe head with his whetstone. He stopped suddenly, his body becoming rigid, turning his head slightly to the right, listening with his eyes shut, intently. Was it the wind, or a wild animal below in the forest moving with speed, breaking dead wood underfoot as it echoed towards him? A blinding flash of bright red lit the canopy below. Then a man's scream broke above the roar of the wind, only Cuchulainn hearing it distinctly from his vantage point near the edge. Moments passed, then another blinding flash of red, closer. Another scream arose, louder this time, blood-curdling, his anguish carried by the wind towards Cuchulainn. At least a mile away, he thought, close enough to the settlement to cause concern. He knew it was time to act. He rose slowly, listening, focused while placing his axe in its leather holder without looking. Again a large flash of red lit the canopy below. It was heading towards the settlement for sure. Was it the last party of Cimmerian raiders sent north, returning, maybe pursued by Vanir warriors with flame arrows? Cuchulainn turned to his resting scouts. "Wait, you fools! We have invaders!" The huntsmen stirred swiftly up, but startled somewhat. "What is it, hound? Is this for real this time, or another one of your bloody hunches?" Brian blurted out, while rubbing his sleepy eyes. Cuchulainn stirred fiercely in his direction. Even in the thick underbrush of the hilltop, he knew exactly where his cromraid was standing in the dark foliage. The old man shuddered, not sure if it was the cold or Cuchulainn's stir that chilled him. The hound did not speak a word. From Brian's view, he simply looked like he dropped off the edge of the plateau into the darkness below. Brian began to march towards the edge, whispering through clenched teeth, "Turin, light the damned alarm fire, fast boy!" Then disappeared over the edge behind his fellow tribesman. Young Turin quickly searched for his flint and stone in his pouch, then began to spark the embers of life at his feet. Fergus readied himself also, tightening his weapons into place for the descent. "Follow after us, lad. Only when that damn fire's roaring like a witch's ass do you follow." Then he jogged to the edge and literally jumped off. Turin nodded to no one in particular and carried on fanning the sparks of tinder with his shield. Brian and Fergus followed after Cuchulainn, dropping off the sheer side of the hilltop into the darkness below. If someone was watching from a distance, they would be astonished at how easily they slide, dropped through crag to crag, using the tree roots for their controlled descent. They had done this 1,000 times since childhood. They had no fear of heights. To them, it was just like climbing a tree when they were boys. Cimmerian children are taught climbing skills from a young age, just 6 summers, so as to be able to forage for eggs, honey and herbs during the short summer months for their mothers. Turin readied himself to descend, fixing his gear into place and making sure it would not fall out. He peered over the ledge to see his tribesmen disappear into the canopy of the trees below. A flash of red to Turin's right woke him into action, from his concern for the climb to come. He stepped over the ledge, backwards, steadying himself, finding footholds firstly before he descended. He was still new to this lookout point, only the second time here since his coming of age, only being 18 summers. He was not as efficient a climber as the older men who had been in this place many times before. He lifted his head to look on the roaring fire, satisfied that the settlement would see his handiwork and get prepared for all eventualities. He descended slowly at first, then started picking up speed as he dropped into the darkness, hoping to catch up with his fellow tribesmen before they whetted their steel in battle. End of Chapter 1.